This other light on. Whew. All right. It's a little bit later than I usually do, and that's because all day from about maybe 8 or 9 in the morning until probably, I'd say half an hour ago, I had these people over here. As I've mentioned before, there's a large amount of construction and, in my opinion, unnecessary things that are happening at my place. So that's why there was a significant delay as opposed to the usual schedule, which is usually sometimes in the early afternoon. But I'm here, like I said I would be. And I originally intended to do this Google Hangout thing where I would play this video the person made a couple of years ago about King, and then kind of interject whenever I thought it was necessary. But because I'm reminded of the fact that I have tried to incorporate more editing, thumbnails, tags, the works into my stuff for the past couple of months, and actually seen a decrease in subscribers. Went from it was like 2.3 thousand and 50 to 20. I saw it. There's no point in me doing that anymore. Honestly, I just think sometimes I should probably not even bother with uploading. But then I'm always reminded of the fact that I got into this with barely any views to begin with anyway. So it's kind of just the status quo that never seems to die. That's how I am with a lot of things. I look at the the result that people want you to feel or want you to, just the ethic they want you to incorporate. Oh, try hard, do this, do that. And then I say, well, if I'm going to get the same result, even if I incorporate these things, I'm not going to bother incorporating them. So that's the real reason for me just kind of saying screw it. But yeah, the main thing I've said before about this holiday is that it's really frustrating when you have a historical figure who is as documented as King, and people can only tell you the same two things about him: the assassination and the "I Have a Dream" speech. And a couple of people have actually tried to accuse me and some others of discussing more salacious things as some attempt to smear him and make him look bad. And I said, no, I'd rather people have an entire story of someone's life and then judge for themselves if that person is bad or not. So, for example, if I mention that he plagiarized his doctoral thesis, I'm not saying that because I want people to go, oh my God, we need to get rid of this holiday. This man plagiarized something decades ago. No, it's simply in the interest of trying to give people information that otherwise is obscured. And given that my streams usually have 2, 3, 5 people in there, it's going to stay obscured, even with me mentioning it. That's why it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. Like, oh, you saw that your streams kept getting only a few people in there. You're how's it going to improve? You don't even try. That's defeatism. No, that's reality. If I at the last couple streams get only 5 or 6 people in there, I can assume the next one's probably going to get around the same number of people. Hell, I remember I had one guy who was like, I'm seeing your channel again for the first time in a year. He saw it again for the first time in a year, not because I changed the name or I started doing something different. He just chose to not show up for 12 months. But, as the content creator, you get blamed for everything because people would rather look at the individuals attempting to do stuff than the people who, are just supposed to click a button and check out something. But yeah, when I talk about this information, it's not for the purpose of disparaging anyone. Just like when we mentioned the cheating stuff, and I tried to explain that if you look at Abernathy's book, The Walls Came Tumbling Down, with the mention of the women that King was involved with that weren't his wife, you can't really say that's a non-credible source if that was written by King's right-hand man. And if it's written by King's right-hand man, who he had a good relationship up until his death, you can assume it's not coming from some place of evil or, posthumous attacks toward the man. It's from someone who says, this is stuff that you haven't heard from anyone else because no one else was around him like I was. Take it for what you will. And I really wish people would look at those things and not immediately attack those who choose to bring it up or mention it. But they don't care because they want to keep their little crystallized image. So I think that's a nice little thing they do. They try to pretend that everything was hunky dory and there were no issues ever. And this great man who was so terrific. It's like, yeah, he was fine, but I'm not. We're not going to do like the little Christ-like Jesus stuff. It's really disturbing too, because if we get to a point where information is attacked, not some little thing we just created, right? Like, King was a possessor of 6 fingers. If it's something that can be verified by researchers or biographers of the man, I don't really understand the need to get upset to the point of going, oh, this is slanderous. Like, yeah, it's information you don't like, but that doesn't mean it's bad, or rather that it's some falsehood that someone created. How you doing, Ruben? Yeah, I'm down 30 subs. I'm gonna quit YouTube. I'm not even gonna try anymore. I'm such a defeatist. That's why I uploaded every day and tried to have comedy in the rest of the ilk, because I'm such a defeatist. We all know people who are defeatists. They keep doing it even if they think it's not going to happen, because me thinking something is what causes it versus other people's actions influencing me. Tell you, that was a crazy stream. Just like I still think about. I'm referring to the I don't do anything stream, and having that person say that, like, as I was sitting here talking about still doing things, to try and better yourself or to better your circumstance, even if you don't think the other side is going to respond to it. So I mentioned at one point, you go out and approach, but you still don't think you're going to actually get with someone, but you still do it because if you don't approach, you're not going to get with anyone. And that after years of having the same result of being unreciprocated, I just saw, all right, this is not going to change. Again, after years, this person's like, you're a defeatist. Important article for you to read about MLK's relationship with Rockefeller, who ran against Barry Goldwater in 1964 GOP primary. Yeah, I remember supposedly before he died, he considered endorsing Goldwater for president in the 68 election because he had a better relationship with him than most of the other mainstream Republicans. Which, if you tell them today King was a socialist, they'll look at you like you lost your mind. It's like, yeah, the Poor People's Campaign was all about, that typical mantra of, if you're poor, you just didn't work hard enough, even though wages have been stagnant for 40 years. Over 40% of the homeless have jobs. All the stuff that, goes directly against that narrative, but they're just going to keep on spinning it. So whatever they want to believe. That's really the craziest thing about being, just like an observer of statistics and facts and other information, where you say, okay, these people want me to believe that all of the poor people are lazy, they don't do anything. Then, like, why do we have instances of Wells Fargo a couple of years ago firing 5,000 people just at the drop of a hat? Now all those unemployed people who can go poor from not working, they were all lazy up, that's why they all got fired. All of those thousands of people got fired for being lazy, all at the same time. Wells Fargo just like has Professor X in there. He just reads everyone's mind. He's like, this person's lazy and these other 1,000 people are lazy. Get rid of them all. It's like, no, the idiots at the top wanted to save some dollars, and they knew if they had less people employed, they could get away with keeping their cash for the most part. It's not difficult to figure that out. But yeah, like the Poor People's Campaign is another thing that is good about King that you'll never see get discussed, because at the heart of it is working class individuals, and it's directly antithetical to the current two-party, or as I like to call them, the duopoly money party that we have in the U.S., where if you feed certain messages like that, they go along with the Sanders ideology and just stuff like that, where they don't want to continuously perpetuate it. I know I made a little verbal salad there, but I'm saying that bringing up something such as that is not as accepted as the, oh, let's all be equal message of the I Have a Dream speech, which is why they go out of their way to make sure it's the one thing you see being played on TV day after day. And we don't even need to mention King's relationship with Hoover. I'm trying to remember what Hoover's quote was after he got the what do you call it? The Nobel Peace Prize, that it was like the greatest tragedy or something, and that was why he was adamant in getting. And I'm about to read your comment in a second, Ruben, but that was why Hoover was adamant in getting Johnson to give an award to his little second in command, Clyde Tolson, who was sick at the time, so he had to accept it on his behalf. But it was supposed to rival that, basically, like be showing that, oh yeah, well, that little civil rights leader over there got something, but so did my friend here. And it kind of looked weird because, you're his friend and you're having to accept a reward. And it made sense because Tolson was ill at the time, but still. Yeah, Ruben, there could be a whole series about stuff with Hoover. Rockefeller was a terrible human being. Him supporting MLK was for nefarious motives. Hey, what's wrong if Hoover was into that? I thought we were supposed to be pro. Well, I mean, someone can do that without being gay, but we're supposed to be like, for, you know what I'm saying? I don't see, if that was his only problem, there wouldn't be a problem. That's what I'm getting at. It's crazy. Hoover had a crystallized public image for about 20 years after he died. And then that book came out where the woman said that she was in the back of a car and observed him holding hands with another man. And they just completely wrecked his image at that point. That's what people tend to do when someone dies. They go and start revealing stuff that the person can't defend themselves against. Like when the guy, I forgot what his name was, he wrote a book about Malcolm X, and it's like, oh yeah, he was into having sex with male prostitutes. Do you have any proof? No, you're just gonna put this in here, and we're supposed to believe that this man who was married and had 6 kids was into that. I mean, like when they write stuff such as that, it's annoying. But if you have enough, I guess, conviction of you, or rather beliefs in your convictions, then you can just kind of write it off. You can say, yeah, that person's just talking out of their neck. They're not actually saying anything that I'm going to believe. Hoover covered up the existence of organized crime. Oh, I know. That was his conflict with RFK, who wanted to pursue organized crime. And Hoover allegedly was blackmailed because they had a picture of him, I think, doing some kind of, it was some image of him that they had that allegedly is the reason why he wouldn't go after organized crime and the mobs and the rest of the ilk. Yeah, that stream from yesterday did pretty good. Wow. I'm kind of shocked. What is that? 90 views? That's terrific for me. I was looking at those uploads this week and I was like, damn, did people just like throw their computers away? It's like, what the hell's going on here? Yeah, I do hope the point of that stream was recognized because I did try to formulate my position based off of my own experiences and current things that were going on. Hoover encouraged the FBI to falsify accusations like the one you just described about Malcolm X. That's the real reason why his gay tendencies are horrid to hear. If I remember correctly, he claimed after Kennedy's murder that King supposedly tried to set up an orgy at the funeral. We had fun times that day. What day? Yeah, they had and then when you had, okay, yeah, because it was about everything. We had discussed some shows, politics, all the things just got thrown around there. I remember now. But I was going to say that the other thing is that with the letter that he wrote to King, where you are done. It's really kind of crazy because if you read the letter, he keeps saying in it, you are done, and then next sentence and then something else, you are done. There is but one way out for you. You better take it before your filthy, abnormal, fraudulent self is barred to the nation or something. So for every year after the I Have a Dream speech, King was spied on by the FBI. And just on a related note, I actually had a woman I used to talk to 3 years ago who wouldn't make a Facebook or any of these other websites. And she was talking about the FBI was going to spy on her and all this stuff. And I was like, you are a random broad in a southern state who nobody has ever heard of. For the majority, people disregard. Like, you're not King. So, like, I literally said, you're not Martin Luther King. So why would you have no large impact? And that's not meant for me to say that I'm any more significant, but it just felt like the most paranoid thing in the world. Like, there's this larger apparatus of the government that's going to spy on you for your views when you log onto this website, even though she had no videos anywhere, she had no written statements anywhere. That, like, they would literally have to have some mind reader that knows what her beliefs are when she speaks them over the phone or in real life to even know, to even care about her being on any of these sites. It was a really strange thing, man. So I said, some of these people are crazy. If I make an account on here, the FBI is going to spy on me, and Director Ray is going to. Well, this is before Ray. That was Comey. Yeah, Director Comey is going to look for me. No, not at all. You can be as paranoid as you want, but we have to have a little semblance of common sense. She really made the FBI sound like the X-Men. They got all the mutants working the machines. They got Professor X reading your mind to know what your political beliefs are. They've got I don't know, Storm coming over there to make all the ground around you shake and quake and scare you and intimidate you. Modern documentaries and books about early organized crime networks in the U.S. have tremendously downplayed the Israeli connection about them. Ruben says Magneto. Yeah, he's over there making all your machines move around at night. Hell, I'm pretty sure there was a politician that compared the Republican Senate leader before McConnell, so Frist, the one from Tennessee, the physician or doctor or whatever. There's actually a Congress member who compared him to Palpatine or Vader, one of those two. And it was really kind of weird. Let me see here. Was part of it too. Yeah, for the those documentaries, we need to have a little list. Oh my God, Siri. Damn devices. Like I said, we need a list of all the figures that you wanted to put up there. I don't know why you're using two accounts to say hello if you were already. I already unblocked the other one. One of the mods took off here. I don't know what the point of that is. Oh, I guess everybody's acting strange today. Well, I already said I live in the Twilight Zone, so people do things I don't understand just with a continued nature to it. Yeah, it's really sad that you have an entire movement with all these different major figures and they all get shoved to the back for King. Like, the only one I've seen get any kind of respectable treatment is Rosa Parks, and then pretty much everyone else from that period totally disregarded. And one can argue, oh, it's because they don't have a holiday. Like, yeah, but I mean, even if they did, which would be ridiculous, by the way, I'm not even going to try to introduce something like that. People still can be referenced and talked about without, having some kind of memorial service every once a year. I mean, I guarantee you, if we went around and I mentioned this in another show, if we went around town and asked people to name half of the big six, they probably couldn't name even any of them besides King. Hell, they'd even screw up Lewis, and he's alive and in Congress. And in the news again because he got the cancer. But stuff like that's really pathetic. No A. Philip Randolph, no James Farmer, no Roy Wilkins. I mean, it's really insane. Some Japanese extreme right-wing guy infiltrated the Nation of Islam during the 1930s for some reason. Well, that sounds very interesting, and I'd love to hear the background context for that. I'd be very excited. I'm gonna click my heels when I read this story because it'll pique my interest so much. But yeah, all these other characters, and I use that term in a, I guess, lesser refined capacity, don't get mentioned at all during this event. Ask people who's the one who organized the March on Washington. It's like it was Bayard Rustin, who I think was one of the first prominent gay Black people. But again, that still might not be entirely accurate. I just know that if I were to go and think about LGBT African Americans and not look at the contemporary era, that's the first person I think of. Lewis is currently screwing modern civil rights movement. Screw him. Yeah, he pissed me off a couple years ago with the little dumb comment when he was on Hillary's side in that primary. Well, I was in the civil rights movement and I didn't say burn it. It's like, what the hell? Who made you the declarer of who was strong enough on those issues? Are you kidding me? It's just so weird. Yeah, but that's a rumor. I mean, I'm trying to go off of facts. Hell, all the stuff about Hoover is basically a rumor. That's why usually I don't really bother bringing it up. Because honestly, I don't care like about these people's sexuality. You've had whole documentaries made about JFK screwing chicks, and it doesn't pique my interest. Focus on what these people did to affect the lives of others in a non-sexual capacity. It's the same thing with Trump. I've seen plenty of liberals bring up, oh my God, he cheated on all 3 of his wives. And hell, if he was passing single payer and the Green New Deal, he could screw half of the chicks in the U.S. and it wouldn't bother me. Outright lied about Bernie's role. Oh, what did Snoop say? What did that dumb website claim about him? I'm very intrigued. It seems like all these places do now is just spread misinformation. Like they can't just trust the people to come up with a position. They have to sit there and go, this is because of this guy didn't do this. Like, how? Whatever. Yeah, they're really embarrassing. That's why a lot of times when it comes to most of these people, I'll usually read their official statement or some fact checker, like PolitiFact, because they typically can catch a lot of individuals. They have a crew of people who go out of their way to actually look up and see if something's correct or not. Like when Tapper did that little stupid segment on single payer that everybody was making fun of him for. They were one of the first people who said that was wrong. And they're not even, as far as we know, a left-leaning organization. And even they saw through it. They're like, yeah, that's not correct. Nice try. I mean, you can find so many books on King, and you can't find any on. Like, I can just go through a list of naming a bunch of different people. A piece of who is this? It's some new character, or is that beast still on his 3rd account? The world may never know. Soros owns a piece of it. I thought that group was over. By the way, I haven't heard anything about them since. What is this? Some new character. Or is that beast still on his 3rd account? The world may never know. Soros owns a piece of it. I thought that group was over. By the way, I haven't heard anything about them since. What is this? Some new character. What, the election cycle, the last one? Snoops makes the skeptic community feel better about themselves. A BLM guy got endorsed by Wells Fargo. Well, I told you, it's very easy to do the little, oh, I support the equality of all ethnic groups, but when you start getting down to economic stuff, like I bring up that chick that had the baby, right? Take, for example, her kid. Let's say I think she was stupid for having it, but I think the kid should have a right to a job and to going to school. And when I say school, I mean past high school, college, and it should be free or either very, very, very cheap, so they can have a chance of actually making it out of there. You won't get any of these banks to go along with that same position. They'll simply tell you that things are horrible because they are. We're not going to actually look at each individual person's life. Screw you. That's how they roll. It's all window dressing. They scratch the surface without going any deeper. That's kind of how the modern civil rights movement teachers are, in the same way, where, like, for as long as I can remember as a little kid, every Martin Luther King Day, King, 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 and no mention of anyone else other than Rosa Parks. And again, all this information is available for free online, and people just don't use it. And it's really, that's why I said it's the sadness stream. It's the disillusioned person, because it doesn't affect me one way or the other if people choose not to remember this stuff. It just drives me crazy that you can have an entire movement, and I say crazy as in I'm baffled, I'm befuddled that you can have an entire movement of people and then they just get completely ignored. Oh, I remember that. That movie. Where at the end of it, after they meet him as a little kid, he goes into the room, grows up, and gets shot. Yeah. I think somebody put that up on YouTube. I'm not sure. They should. I mean, hell, I remember thinking it was pretty decent. I haven't seen it in years, though. I'm very intrigued that you brought that up, though. God, it's so sad that a lot of people get completely ignored for their advancement of issues. And I guess, hell, maybe that's the whole reason that the holiday itself isn't the problem to me. It's the people who celebrate it, because you don't have to remember the stuff King did, and then you also completely ignore all the other people who were involved with his efforts. Oh, this is the president I was talking about. Yeah, Benjamin Mays, the Morehouse president for 20 years, who was King's mentor. Another person who is very important to history that it's completely glossed over in comparison with King, that is. Because he actually does have some memorial type things out there. It's just, it's really sad, man. Like, none of these people are ever going to get a movie. They're never going to get any large plethora of books written about them. They're not going to have their papers collected in some singular building, and it's sad. Hoover posed as an anti. That's why I bring him up, possibly being two-faced criminal, hence why I got his position in the first place. Oh, I see. I mean, it just seems like the FBI's protocol for hiring people is for them to do crooked stuff. Like when I was talking to that fiend from the year before last, or last year as well, she was a big fan of Mueller. Oh my God, Mueller's such a great guy. Ooh! And then Dore played a clip of Mueller from, I think it was 2003, before the Iraq War, basically supporting the Bush administration's testimony that there were weapons of mass destruction. But I never told her about that because I knew she wouldn't care, and these people are the way they are because of that stuff. Let's see what else I'm gonna use. Yeah, Hollywood's a really frustrating place. Like I remember when they put out the Ruth Bader Ginsburg film. Was it last year? This year? Well, yeah, last year. There's persons like, oh my God, they're doing what you want them to do because they're focusing on people who aren't just the same couple of ones over. I was like, yeah, but that's happening because it was initiated by someone she's related to. Some random liberal person who loves that Supreme Court justice didn't just decide to make that. There was a process of a person who's related to this individual making it there a higher chance they're going to pay attention to them, orchestrating that movie coming about. Wasn't there a former Bush administration guy who ran for Congress last year as a Democrat? What state, and did he win? I mean, I don't remember. That would be new to me. I can't recall. Because he hired females before. Yeah, wasn't he the first Supreme Court justice that has an entire female? Was it understudy or something? It's like 4 of them instead of the usual 1 or 2. I'm asking. I'm not saying. Let's see here. Whew. Trying to make sure I read all the lovely comments. All right, well that's the cream of the crop for right now. Who else am I forgetting that was a big deal? I don't know. Maybe the because Ruben, you had mentioned doing a documentary on Schiff. I probably because I wanted to just do the Giuliani one's second part because that's going to be 3 parts as I mentioned before. But I will give it consideration depending on if I can find enough stuff from the earlier part of his career to stick in there. All the feminist fear mongering about Kavanaugh because of Roe v. Wade, and yet he supports it. No, he doesn't. You're lying. That's how they would respond to you. I watched CNN and they told me he's a bad guy. Yeah, if the whole, and remember what I said to you before about it, we have all these lower court judges that Trump appointed, and none of these crybabies give one damn about them, even though they hear, what is it, 10 times the cases that the Supreme Court will hear in a year? I told you, people have their priorities all over the place. We're going to get upset over the Supreme Court, which hears 100 cases a year, but not over the Trump nominees that are going to hear 1,000 a year all over the country. It's pretty insane when you think about it. But again, no one actually sits there and says, wait a second, if they're hearing 10 times more, that means they're 10 times more significant. Oh, no, their names are known on TV every day, so we shouldn't worry about them. And there actually was a poll that came out where I think only half of Americans can name a single Supreme Court justice, which at this point probably is only Kavanaugh. And if it's not, then it's Ginsburg, or because I was shocked that people completely forgot about Gorsuch right after he got on the court. It was like he never existed. Because he didn't have a sex scandal, we don't know who he is. It's pretty insane. Yeah, it's been a really strange series of events with, and I guess when you have holidays for people, um, you have to look at the individuals that are significant to their era and that they had close interactions with their enemies with, and you have to judge the person in full, in my opinion, to really get a breath of who that individual was. Um, Take for example, King's father, King Senior. He goes to he goes around and changes his, what was it, 5-year old son's name to Martin Luther along with his own. And I guarantee you, most people wouldn't know that King's legal name was Michael King because they never talk about that. And that's another detail that I'm not mentioning to try and shame people who like him. It's simply to say that if I like someone or any person of significance and I want to know stuff about them, there's just basic information out there that the media does not do a good job of trying to cover. And people are really complacent with not knowing stuff. I read that Ford woman used to work for the same intelligence agency that Kavanaugh was in, but I forgot which one. Oh, the people placed in charge of the Tuskegee spill study were black themselves. Oh, syphilis study. Okay. What about the Georgia gonorrhea? What about that one? And yes, I said that because there are two G's, double G. That was a little joke I was trying to make. Or someone says, "Oh my God, he made a joke about a sexually transmitted disease." Like, yeah, but people make jokes about getting murdered and all kind of other life-threatening stuff. So I can't even take them seriously when they get mad. You have not heard about the? No, it sounds familiar. If I have, I don't remember the name of it. Oh, they're pledging open minds ahead of the impeachment trial. Man, as long as these people have been sitting, or ever since this thing started, you've had the same couple of people saying he's guilty and innocent, and now I'm supposed to believe because they did this, it all changes. Yeah, I don't even bother with a lot of these characters. It's just everyone's saying such weird stuff. Oh yeah, I'm going to be impartial, even though there are 20 interviews of me saying that. Wow, we went from 7 to 5. Damn, that number destroyed itself twice. But you have all these people like, I believe he's. I'm going to keep a fair mind, and then you have 20 interviews of me saying he's guilty. That's pretty insane. That carbon tax is coming. Oh yeah, I don't dispute it. Well, the current environmental record of the present occupant of the White House is pretty disastrous, but we can discuss that at some other point. I like how the Southern Christian Leadership Conference actually, which is the organization that King was the first president of, they really just fell down with each passing leader. Like, I'm looking at the presidents right now. You go from King to Abernathy, which makes sense because Abernathy was his right hand man. Then you got Lowry, who was there for 20 years, still a respectable pick. But then you select his son, who, let's be honest, only got that job because, I mean, he took over in, what was it, 97? That's 30 years after, my mistake, 29 years after King dies. At that point, this man was so wonderful and great and terrific has already set in. So that's why he got the position. That nepotism, it's everywhere. Just never goes away. People bragging, I got the endorsement of MLK's daughter. So what? Get the endorsement of him, and I would be impressed. The civil rights movement became a disaster after the 1960s ended. Yeah, it really just went and spiraled and kind of went out after King's death. Because I mean, like they didn't really interact much with Nixon, and I think really the closest you get to any kind of continuity was because I know that King's father and his wife were supporters of Carter when he ran for president. But outside of that, it's pretty much just. Oh. Yeah, all these different groups are kind of antiquated now. They don't really do much of anything. Like not even just the civil rights groups, but just all the historical groups. Like the AFL-CIO is the current president that they've had for over 10 years is a joke. I still can't get over that interview. He's like, "Oh yeah, Hillary is a great labor candidate." Give me a break. The person that supports all the disastrous trade deals is good for labor, for working people. I don't know what he was smoking when he did the interview, but that ever since I saw that, I just and then now they're back in the USMCA, which is NAFTA 2.0. But these are the people who are so concerned that that this is going on. Yeah. These are the titans of workers' rights and the common man. Anyways, we're gonna wrap this up because I see we're getting, we went from 7 to 5 to 6 to 4. Like it just, loops. In conclusion, I wish that when they had these holidays, they actually pay attention to what the people did. Um, Hell, just about maybe 4 weeks ago, Jackson was on TV, and this person I was watching was like, "Oh my God, look at how ugly he is." Like, what does that have to do with anything he's saying? It was, I wish people would actually look at what someone is doing as opposed to the little, if they're aware of anything they've done, the same 2 or 3 things that the media props up, because a lot of this information is available online. And if people don't know about it at this point, with as connected as Americans are to the internet, that's their stupidity.